Welcome to this episode where I'm going to be telling you the story of how I went from selling £3 coffees at working at Costa Coffee to landing a 5-figure client very early into my corporate sales career to then going on to build my own sales coaching business. This is going to be way more personal than a lot of my other episodes that are more practical. So if you haven't already, grab yourself a cup of tea, grab a coffee, snuggle in. I'm recording this on a Sunday evening because that's my peaceful time. I just like to relax into this. So whether you are getting ready in the morning, taking me out for a walk, this is going to be a real nice episode where I share quite a lot of things that I've never talked about before. So if you want to know even more behind the scenes about my journey and how I came to be the woman I am today, this is going to be an insightful episode. So get comfy, get your coffee, get your cup of tea, your glass of wine, whatever it is that you're doing. Let's snuggle in. So I want to take you back to my first job after uni. So I finished uni in 2012. And at the time, the UK was going through its whole big credit crunch, doom, gloom, economy crash. And so for me, I actually, completely different to sales, I wanted to go into criminology. My degree was in law and criminology, and I'd wanted to go and work with offenders because I'd learned as part of my degree that people, when they're coming out of prison, there's a really high rate of reoffending. It's actually 66%, or it was at the time, 66% rate of recidivism, which is the rate of reoffending when people come out of prison, just because of there's so many circumstances around it. And I wanted to be involved in reducing that rate. I wanted to help more people so that they'd got more options, more availability, more opportunities to really bring down that rate of reoffending and give people a better head start once they were coming out of prison. However, thanks to economy crash, me coming out as a fresh grad with no experience and having never worked with vulnerable members of society before, I was not getting a look in to our most vulnerable members of society. It wasn't even coming close, because at that time, everybody who had experience was going for jobs at least one level down, if not 2 levels down. People were taking pay cuts just to secure jobs. So for me as a grad with 0 experience, you weren't coming anywhere close. So I kind of had to park that idea. I also wasn't going down the law route because it's wild now to explain it, but because my degree was 50-50 with law and criminology, in order to make it a qualifying law degree, which you need in order to get into a legal practice, I would have needed to do an extra year of study at uni, self-funded, and all the rent and everything that comes with that. Then I would have needed to do a legal practice course, which was another 10 grand on top of the 40 grand that I would have already accrued through university debt. And then secure a contract at a solicitor's office, which are really hard to come by. You have to write an entire essay per solicitor's office that you apply to, with a hope that someone might accept you and you might be lucky enough to make the tea in the solicitor's office for minimum wage. It honestly, the mind boggles, absolutely boggles. And so the idea of taking a few extra years to accrue a whole lot more debt to then start, not even at the bottom of the ladder, like on the door outside, I was like, doesn't sound great, to be honest. So I took a job where I love, which was Costa Coffee. I always used to go to Costa. For my American girls, Starbucks isn't that big in the UK. Like, obviously, it's a reputable brand. I put reputable in quotation marks. But it's a brand that we're obviously very familiar with. But Costa have got the number 1 spot in the UK. And I absolutely loved them. So that was my post-uni job whilst I was figuring out what to do with my life now that I wasn't taking the law route, and it didn't look like I was taking the working with criminals route. So I was like, okay, well, now what? So this was bide my time whilst I figure out what else to do. So I was working at Costa. And honestly, so much of my business knowledge came from this job. This was just a weekend job. And I'd be serving on a Saturday and Sunday. And whilst I did do some shifts at uni, to be fair, working at the Bristol office and then changing location when I moved back home. And so, yeah, I'd just be serving coffee, selling cake, selling paninis. So simple. So the average value of one of their products would be like £3. But I loved that job. I got to speak to a lot of people We were in a busy town centre, in a shopping centre, so it was always busy. There was lots of people to serve. It was constantly like, it was about customer excellence, but quantity as well. Like, that brand really taught me about quality and quantity, because our store was one of the busiest stores in the entire district. There was always a high volume of traffic. But not only that, is Costa had a really high standard of customer excellence, really high. So all the staff would have training, not just on the products we were selling, aka taste test, woohoo, so that we could recommend the products, but also our actual training on the business. So what did customer loyalty mean? What did standards of excellence mean? What did that mean for us in our job? And how are we doing that? And how are we maintaining that our teammates are doing that? And always maintaining this really high standard of customer service. So I learned a lot about business at a coffee shop. The reason that they have this really solid brand is the meticulous staff training and the standards that they have within the business. Everything that I learned about, like, the vision of the brand, the core values, how they see their customers, the relationship that they want to build, and the such high care that they place over their products, their drinks, the way that they're made, like the care and love that go into just that business as a whole. And this is why I'm still loyal and will be loyal to Costa till the day I die. You will not catch me in a Starbucks, telling you now. And like little things like, if a cake broke in the cake fridge, that absolutely couldn't be served because it wasn't perfect. Like, only the stuff that looked really good and was perfect would be sold. Anything else, scrapped. This was also a time where I put on quite a bit of weight, might I add, because I'd be like, oops, the corner broke. Look at that. We can't sell it. I'll eat it. I went from a size 10 to a size 14. But I was happy. Thinking of all the accidentally damaged cakes that happened during my time at Costa. Lol. And the whipped cream that they got through. Oh. But anyway, so all the things about like branding, customer loyalty, standards of excellence, I all learned at Costa. Another thing that I learned when I was there was about upselling. Now, and this, like, it taught me so much about sales, but I didn't realise it was teaching me about sales at the time, is when people would come in and they'd ask for, let's say, like medium cappuccino, it was our job to say, oh no, they'd say cappuccino. We would then have to say, would you like a medium or a large? That we offered a small. But we didn't ever say, would you like a small? Because then that's downselling someone. That's encouraging them to take the lower option. We would be trained to always ask, would you like a medium or a large? Because when you only give people two options, the likelihood is that they're going to take one of those two. So if they choose a medium or a large, we've just increased their anticipated spend. So if someone then chooses like medium or goes for a large, what we would then say is, and would you like a cake with that? Well, of course. I'd love a cake with that. Let me go get a cake. Oh, before we even get to the cake, hang on. I'm skipping ahead. I love that it's still so ingrained in me, and this is like 10 years down. I would say, especially if this was a hot chocolate, my God, the way you can upsell a hot chocolate. Medium hot chocolate, please. Awesome. Would you like whipped cream with that? Yes, please. Would you like a flake with that? Yes, please. Would you like marshmallows with that? Yes, please. This thing would come out looking like a whole damn party. And it was. And I, as a client, I used to drink it all the time. It was absolutely excellent. Did I know it was a heart attack in a glass? Yes. Did I have it willingly anyway? Absolutely. So you've had like 3 upsells on the drink alone. You've then asked someone, would you like a cake with that? More often than not, they'll say yes, or the toasty. So what has gone from what would have been around a £2 or £3 initial spend can easily go over 10, maybe £15 per customer. And so it's really like, that was the best exercise that I had in my early intro into sales, as to, I didn't ever feel like I was selling anything because I was giving people stuff that they already wanted. I might have been like fine-tuning the options and making it sound like there was less available than there was. But because people wanted it, they wanted the whipped cream, they wanted the marshmallows, they wanted extra cake and sides. So it was easy for them to say yes, and it was enjoyable for me to provide because I was serving them. They always left happy. Like, increasing someone's spend never felt like uncomfortable or icky. I never felt weird as a server because I had seen my customers smiling so happy when they see this hot chocolate coming towards them, looking like an absolute, lol, love that. And so, yeah, a lot of lessons around like a brand, high customer loyalty, standards of excellence when it came to the products that we were serving, and lessons in upselling and on-selling, I all learned from Costa. Another thing that we learned was around like competitor research. So my manager at the time, I don't think this was standard practice across all Costas. It's just something that he liked to do because he was, again, like meticulous. We were one of the highest performers in the region and he liked to keep that standing. So we would go out and literally do market research around the other competitors, not just in our local town, but going into Birmingham at the Bullring and going around, and we'd split up into teams, and someone would go to Costa, someone would go to Nero's, someone else would go to somewhere else. And we'd go back and talk about what our experience was, how we served on the till, what was our drink like, or, what was the spend, what was the inside like, how clean was it, how much did we like being a customer in that environment, and what can we bring back to the business to improve our own. Again, so many people skip this market research, but it was so valuable because we got to take all the best bits of what our competitors were doing, but also be aware of where they were dropping the ball and make sure not to do that. What were they doing well? What did they miss? And we leveraged that. Another thing that we did, actually, we were just in the right place at the right time, but a lesson that I had really around like the tribe mentality about how people are when they're loyal to a brand was shown to us when Starbucks had some really negative news. It all just blew up on one day because the news dropped that they'd not been paying their tax. And that was whilst I was working at Costa. And the next day, the change was literally instantaneous. We had a queue out the door from like 8 o'clock in the morning. And basically everyone that had been loyal to Starbucks until that news dropped were now in the queue to Costa. And it was as instant as that because trust had been broken with the brand that they loved because the tax hadn't been paid. And, people will really align with a brand based on their values, based on their vision, just those real brand values. So when Starbucks came out to have been avoiding thousands, if not hundreds of thousands in tax evasion, people instantly turned. They were like, nah, I'm not supporting a brand that does that. And straight away, we're in the queue for the competitor, which was us. So, and like their tribe instantly became our tribe, literally overnight. And so it was the biggest lesson in ethics and doing the things the right way, because your customers will be loyal to you. And this is the phrase of trust takes a lifetime to build, but a second to lose. And I really, really saw that in Costa. Or rather, in Starbucks' lack of. So yeah, a lot of lessons that I learned there from just, what I took to be a little easy coffee shop job. I learned a lot around business then. Didn't really see it at the time, which is ironic because there was someone that came to me. I'd been working there, I think, for about a year and a half. So I'd built up a lot of favourite customers in our town. There was a lot of the same people. So it was also a bit like big retirement town. So I'd get all of the olds coming in like, hello, Sarah, every single day. Love them dearly. And there was a man that came in towards the end of my shift one day and he was looking, it'd been a long day, but I was still really happy, smiley, bubbly, doing my thing. And he was just like, you should be in sales. I was like, what? No. And he was just like, no, seriously, the way that you are with people, your personality, the way you're like just bubbly, friendly, you get on with everyone. I'm watching you just go around the room and speak to everyone. You should be in sales. I was like, huh? I like my little job at Costa. And he was the first person that said that to me. And to this day, I'm just like, that man, he knew. He left his card with me. I didn't take him up on the offer because he was like, I want you to come and work for me. And he did something like the HelloFresh boxes, the home delivery boxes. And so I would have been under his brand. I think like a commission-based thing, sell X number of boxes. Yeah, I wasn't bought on at the time, but it was the first penny dropped of, you've got this skill set, like the world needs more of you. But anyway, shortly after that, so I went to go get something, what I saw as more professional. And again, like Credit Crunch was still rampant. And so I was like, right, what can I start with no experience? And I'm a grad, so people are just going to look at me like I'm bottom of the pile. And so I started looking at sales and recruitment, and both had a bad rep. Recruitment seemed to be just like you had to give blood. And it had a worse rep than sales. So I was like, if I've got to take one of the two, let's go for sales. And so I started doing assessment days. And again, this was just supposed to be let me take this to just as something to get by, get me on the ladder whilst I figure out what I'm going to be doing. And I did an assessment day, did a few assessment days, but the one that was the best one, and by this point, I'd learnt what people wanted to see on assessment days. But it wasn't a case of let me just fake it and give them, perform like a monkey. I started realising, especially when I'd enter a room with like 100 other people and there's only 10 spots, I'd be like, I really want this. I really, it lit a fire under me. And so I'm starting to see a bit of my competitive nature coming through, which I didn't realise that I had. Anyway, so I smashed an assessment day. I got offered 2 roles. One was actually Virgin Media, which would have been moving up to Manchester. And one would have been UBM, which was down in London, United Business Media, if you're wondering. And so I went to the Virgin Media interview, and it was a good salary. I loved the office, seemed pretty cool. But they were like, yeah, so you're going to be working from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. And if you're expected to stay later than that, well, so be it. And occasionally on weekends. I was like, are you trying to sell this to me? Because it's not working. But then I went down to my London job, and there they were like, right, you start at 9, you leave at 5, and on Fridays we go to the pub. Savvy? I was like, speak to me. This sounds great. And so, again, I got a lesson of, Virgin Media were not talking to my vision or values. The idea of being in an office at 8 a.m., me as a not morning person, I was like, no fucking way. Nah. Oh, and I could hear the toxicity of, if you're expected to stay late, you're expected to stay late. I was just like, no, honey. Whereas straight away when I heard the London one, I was like, yeah, take me. I'm in. And that's where I started my corporate job in sales. And so, I loved it. I was a little fish from the Midlands, from Birmingham, Peaky Blinders, going to work in the big city. I was just in awe of this place. I got the yes from the job, and they were like, can you start next week? I was like, no, I don't even live here. So I'd got I think I bought myself an extra week. I'd got 2 weeks to find somewhere to live, move my ass down to London and be in the office. And so I was just like a big kid, wow, all the bright lights, the fast tubes. It was all so, so exciting. And so, but I was very much aware that I was the first person that they'd taken on who hadn't already got sales experience. I was kind of like the guinea pig in the office. So I was keen to prove myself from the get-go. The person whose role that I had filled had already got everybody at the company loved him. He'd got really great relationships with all the customers. Everybody knew him. And I was like, for fuck's sake, okay, great. This is perfect. I'd speak to a company and they'd just be like, oh, is Darren there? I'm like, no, it's me now, hun. So I was keen to prove myself quickly, both in the office environment, but also to the clients of his that I was taking on, some of whom had worked with him for years. So I was very, it was quite daunting. I felt like a fish out of water and keen to prove myself in a very big pond. It also didn't help that I was sat next to all of the directors. The fear, I don't know whether this is a planned move or just how the office happened to be, but to put the newbie next to 4 senior directors when she hasn't even learned how to sell, and me in my Brummie accent in a London environment next to people who'd be listening to every single conversation. So every time I fluffed my words, fucked up, said something stupid, or actively just didn't know what I was doing, it was all heard by senior management. You guys wonder why I show up with such main character energy now. I have died a death multiple times, audibly, for people of high caliber to hear. I have no embarrassment left. I've walked that walk many, many times. So, newbie in the office, starting over. And so one of the ways that I was like, right, I need to learn how to do this very quickly. I need to get good now. I need to prove myself. Because I was the newbie, I'd got an extra long probation. I was like, damn it, prove yourself. And one of the ways that I did that was to get out and about in events, because yes, you can spend all day just speaking to people, calling. But I really wanted to get out and understand my whole industry. So the best way to do that was to get out and speak to people. There's only so many phone calls you can do. I wanted to get out and speak to people, especially because we were in events. It made sense for me to go to events. And so I started going to seminars, networking events, after work drinks, competitor shows, anything that was going on in the industry. I was there. I was keen to learn, keen to set myself apart and be seen out of the former guy's shadow. I was like, right, I'm putting my stamp on the place. And so that was my first experience of really understanding how I was different, because I might have been starting over from scratch with no experience, but what I did have is something that not a lot of Londoners have, which was a warm personality. Like, being more northern, because I was from the Midlands, like, we're just more talkative people, and my accent was noticeably different. It was probably quite different to how it is now. So I'd got a more Midlands accent and actively more talkative, more warm than most Londoners. And so it made people open up. We got really friendly conversation really easily. And especially because I was a girl in a male-orientated industry, like, I found conversation really easy. So it didn't matter that I didn't know all the ins and outs of the industry and I wasn't super technically good at sales. People just wanted to chat to me because I sounded different, looked different. And so, again, that was my understanding of really honing in on my USPs, which at that time were a quirky accent and a talkable personality. You don't have to overthink these USPs, guys. It's literally the things that make you you. And so I was quite early into my career when we went to a competitor show. And this was just to do research, see what companies were exhibiting there, speak to them, have starting conversations, and just eyeball what the competitors were doing so that, again, we could learn, or, were there things that we could leverage at our own event, were there things we could do better, improve. And so I started speaking to someone on his stand. And again, just using my quirky little accent, my warm personality, and I just started asking him about his business, how long he'd been going for, how many shows he did. Like, I was literally just trying to find questions to ask because I honestly wasn't sure what to say at this point. So I was just asking him questions. And the more questions I asked, and the more interest that I showed, the more he was intrigued by me. And here's where I learned so much about sales. It's so little. People think that when you're selling, it's you doing all the talking. But actually, when you ask the right questions, people are naturally intrigued because you're not saying anything. And so there's a natural lean in. So at some point, he was just like, sorry, like, where are you from? And at that point, once I've already asked him, I knew everything about his business. Then it was really easy for me to say, oh, I'm from the competitor event. Like, we're in London. Our show's in about 3 months' time. So we're just here, just speaking to people, getting to know the show a bit. At which point he started taking interest. And he was just like, well, have you got space that could fit my stand? And I'm like, yeah. And he was at the front as well. So I memorised the floor plan. And I was just like, yeah, we've actually got one quite close to the front. So our show is was very casual. I was like, yeah, our show is about like 4, maybe 5 times the size of this one. And we do have an available stand at the front if you'd like it. So again, it didn't sound like I was being sleazy or weird or trying to promise something that like I couldn't provide. Our show was the better one. It was massive, much bigger than the one we were at. And we did have a stand at the front. So he could already see what the future would look like and see how many more leads he'd be getting for his business in an event with a lot more footfall. So we spoke, we had one conversation at the show, and then I followed up with a phone call after, and it was a done deal. It was a 10 grand stand. And the ease of that sale, I nearly fell off my chair. I was really early into sales. At that point, a lot of my average contracts were around 3 to 5k. So when I booked him on a 10k stand, I was like, oh my God. When the directors heard about it, they were like, you did what? Because I was the newbie in the office. And so that's how I went on to I was nominated for One to Watch in the company in my first year. They also put me forward to win Salesperson of the Year at the National Awards for Exhibition Organisers. So I was nominated for quite a few awards, and this was the first catalyst piece. It was that massive client very early, like hadn't even properly been sales trained. And there was me booking a 10K client. Like, I'd imagine the other people in the office were just like, you did what now? But honestly, at that point, it was just because I spoke to him like a human, I got to know his business, and I had something that he wanted. Like, there was no technicality about it. So the fact that it was surprisingly easy to book a 5-figure client, I was like, whoa, okay. And again, it really helped me to understand sales, because even in that sales role, I never ever felt like I was pushing anything on anyone that they didn't want it, because I loved what I was selling. It was a live experience. I knew that my clients would love it if they just experienced it. And so it was easy for me to sell it, because I'd just be talking about the experience they were going to have, not just at the show, but what their business would be like after they'd been to the show. And I would just see it as telling them something that they didn't know and allowing them to see what that vision looked like. Because I knew that if they saw that vision and if they came to the show, then their business would be wildly better off. So it really, again, shifted my idea of sales, because prior to that job, I looked at sales the same way a lot of people do, of like, oh, sleazy car salesman. I don't want to be doing this role for very long. I know it's like how it's going to make me look. And yet when I was in the role, I was like, I absolutely love selling. Like, it's amazing that we can just share these gifts and I can help someone's business, like get them some really good leads for their business. They can have the best time ever. I had such great relationships with my clients, and once they'd book with me once, they would come back year after year. Like, and I absolutely loved going to see my clients. Like, it was such a real shift in how I saw sales, because I had the best time ever. All of my best friends worked at the company. My clients were incredible. So that then totally flipped how I saw sales. So when it came to, obviously, I ended up quitting that job because I wanted to go and see what else was out there in the world. I did my round the world travel, and then I was starting my own business from scratch. And having gone from massive FTSE 250 company, massive corporation, to scale it right down to being one person on your mum's dining room table with nothing but a 10-page printed business plan and a big vision. I literally went from the biggest to the smallest, and I was like, wow, I'm just a girl with some paper and a dream. But what I will say here is that I'm really proud of me for writing that 10-page business plan. Like, so many people skip that stage. Like, I ask people, what is your sales strategy? And they literally can't tell me. But I had to put that together. I think it was for the bank wanted to see it. It was either for opening a business bank account or something else. But I did it for myself anyway. It was just helpful when other people asked for it. But in that plan was what my business was about, what our key USPs were, what my products were going to be, how I plan to sell those products, and my month-by-month, 12-month sales plan of how many clients I was going to close at what pricing to bring in revenue over the 12 months, and what my estimated revenue was going to be in year one. Imagine if every entrepreneur had to do that, which back in the day, by the way, you would have had to do in order to get your either loan approved or business approved. Imagine if everyone took the time to do that. So many people literally skip go and go, I'm an entrepreneur, with zero plan or strategy. Like, part of it is admirable in quite the naivety, but I mean, anyway, I digress. I'm just proud of myself for coming in with a plan. Even having never done entrepreneurship before, I'd got a 10-page business plan, which, by the way, when I looked back at it at the end of year one, having not referred to it for the entire year, I did actually hit what I said I was going to hit at the start, like from before starting to the end of year one. You know, there were some slight changes, but it was pretty much on track. So I was super proud of myself for that. But again, what I learned from starting a business from scratch with no experience in entrepreneurship was I needed to look at my unique difference in this new field and what was going to help me to stand out. Now, at that point, because I'd done a little bit of public speaking, I was a natural speaker, I'd done a lot of phone calls, so things like getting on video didn't freak me out. I knew that I could talk coherently, get on video, and I could see that not a lot of people were using video at that time. So I was straight away making a lot of video content, doing a lot of talking, and really like showing what my differences were, talking through what my differences were, and just showing up daily. I knew that the skill, the actual like design skills of when I first started the business, my craft needed improving for sure. But I was putting in the reps and showing up daily. So that straight away is what helped me to build a loyal audience, is me seeing what the unique difference was in that not a lot of people were using video and actually showing up and talking, and leveraging me, my personality, like what I brought to the table. And you can go back, well, I mean, you can't go back because you can't see stories. But if I was to show you my stories from that time, a lot of me was looking at what do I have to market? Because let's be honest, I hadn't signed a lot of clients at that time, and I didn't have the big flashy money wins or big client wins to be able to use as evidence of my strengths. So I had to be like, right, what do I have that I can market by past experience in corporate? So I'd be talking about how I got client results in that job, or client case studies, or what it meant, or how people built a brand at my show. So I was taking my past experiences and showcasing that. So leverage whatever you have. Anyway, coming back on track. I might not have had a lot of client wins to talk about, but what I did have was a lot of knowledge and a willingness to be bold and disruptive. That crucial combo. So bring forward what you have. Hang on. You see, it's so easy for me to go into teaching. I'm like, do this. Going back into my lessons, just as an early entrepreneur, is showcasing what I did have, a willingness to be bold, a willingness to show up daily, a willingness to get on camera, a lot of knowledge to share with people, and a willingness to serve, a willingness to that want to prove myself that I had in the start of corporate, and straight away wanting to be different and really show what I was bringing to the table. Even though I had no evidence to show people, I was willing to do whatever it would take to get that evidence to show people. So when I first started coaching, I worked for free in the beginning. Let me say that again. When I started coaching, I worked for free. I did 4 power hours with people that I didn't know, that I found from a Facebook group, because I wanted testimonials, so that straight away, once I actually announced that I was going into coaching and pivoting my direction, straight away I could bring proof to the table. Because I knew people would be like, huh, what? You're doing this what now? So I wanted to just be like, boom, here's the evidence. So whether you're new, whether you're pivoting, or whether you're just newer into field. And again, going back to the last episode, when it comes to selling high ticket offers or any offers, the more evidence that you have that it works, the easier it is for people to buy. So for me that was starting out as an entrepreneur, I was like, let me go collect evidence so that it's easy for people to buy. So I was willing to work for free to show what I could do. So I went out, I got 4 testimonials, having done 4 power hours with 4 people who had no relation to me whatsoever and all completely different businesses. So when I said, guys, I'm a sales coach, here's how I can help you, here's the proof. Boom, straight away landed clients. Very easy. And that then just landed more clients. It was literally that easy. So if you don't yet have enough proof and sales is feeling hard for you, go get the proof. Imagine if a mechanic turned up at your door offering to fix your car and he'd got no testimonials and there was no evidence that he'd even worked on cars before or had any idea what he was doing other than his own word. You'd be like, fuck off. No, not a fucking chance. And yet there are people in the online space who aren't sharing any of their client results and wondering why sales is hard. I mean, like, people need more than your word. Your word is cute, and this is the thing. It doesn't matter how good your content and messaging is if we can't see your client results. Get your clients great results and they'll do the selling for you. You don't have to have excellent messaging if your clients are speaking for you. So, here we go. So just wrapping this up into like my little Costa journey, my corporate journey, and then how all of that formulated, brought all of those lessons combined into starting my own business. What I've learned, how I've built that, all of that combines into when you're selling a proven thing that people want, it's easy to sell. When you're clear on what makes you different to other people in the market, and you can easily show proof of other people who have enjoyed that thing, selling becomes easy. I've learned that through all of those different, whether it's selling cakes and coffee, whether it's selling events and live experiences, to now teaching people how to sell and my brief stint as a brand designer. All of those things, when you're selling something that people can see and they can see that other people have had an incredible experience with you and that your client testimonials are absolutely glowing, selling becomes easy. So if you're someone that is not yet selling with ease, if you're someone that is not yet signing clients consistently, or either because you're newer into field, or you've taken a little pivot, or you've been doing some lower level offers, but you're ready to go into high ticket and volume sales to be getting that consistent revenue coming through, serving people at high level, whether it's quitting your full-time job and being full-time in the business, or just really upping the number of clients that you're signing and the level of people that you're serving, or I'm going to say height of people that you're serving, but you're moving out of beginners and bringing in people who are more advanced, got more experience, or further ahead in their own business or journey. If you're someone that you're like, yes, I want that, I have something special for you. I've really enjoyed sharing this episode, by the way, my little personal story. I'm sure you would have taken lots of little nuggets away from this. But I want to say thank you for listening all the way through, and I have something special for you. So I'm actually going to be opening the doors again to my signature program, Sold Out Sales Academy, which is a 12-week sales group accelerator to take you from stressed out to sold out. This is my favorite offer that I've taken dozens of clients through, helping them to land their highest paying clients today, build 4 figures of recurring revenue 5 months in advance, launch their own group programs, launch their own digital products, see their highest cash months, or see 5-figure sales days, not even months, days. So this is just my business baby. I love working with people in this because I just get to see their eyes light up, the magic that they bring, and also the experience that they go through when we're working together. Like seeing someone shift through something or move through something they once found difficult and allowing it to become easy, and seeing just the glow up when that happens, when someone reaches a new milestone or they have a breakthrough or something lands differently and they're like, oh my God, and the confidence glow up that comes after that, like I love. Oh, that is my absolute joy. And so I'm going to be bringing this program back again. The doors are going to be opening on the 8th of December. So doors will be open. We'll have our kickoff call this side of Christmas, but obviously with the Christmas break, we'll be kicking the program off in early January. So if you're someone that wants to be increasing their monthly recurring revenue, landing more clients consistently and landing higher paying clients easily, then hop yourself onto the waitlist. Have a look through the show notes. I'm going to put them here so that you can hop onto the waitlist. If you do decide to join the program before doors open publicly, then you can snap up early bird pricing before the 8th of December. But if you wait until after the 8th, when the doors are open publicly, it will be the standard pricing. So I'm just letting you know that if you want to hop onto their waitlist, do so. The link is in the show notes. And I shall see you very soon. Again, thank you for sticking with me through this episode. I'd love to know what your takeaways were, or if you enjoyed this episode, drop me a message on Insta at Sarah Buckland Coaching. If you enjoyed this episode, share it to your stories, tag me so that I can reshare it. I'm just sending you all the love, my honeybee, and we shall speak soon. I'll see you in the next episode. Toodaloo.